You ever notice how the world has this weird obsession with measuring greatness by numbers? Goals, followers, trophies, sponsors. Like someone's entire existence can be boiled down to a scoreboard. And the crazy thing is, people buy into it. They chase it like it's oxygen. But then you sit down and you actually look at what Islam says about greatness, and suddenly it feels like someone pulled the brakes on this whole mental runaway train, because Islam doesn't care about that scoreboard. It doesn't care about how many people know your name. It doesn't care about the size of your bank account or how many cameras flash when you walk into a room. It flips the whole thing on its head and goes, listen, real greatness isn't out there in the noise. Real greatness is in who you are when nobody's watching. And that hits in a very real way, because we see guys hit the top, absolute top, and they're miserable. You'd think reaching that mountain peak is supposed to be the big payoff, right? But nah, half of them get there and look around like, wait, this is it? It's like the world sells you this fantasy: fame makes you great, success makes you worthy, applause makes you complete. And then you look at Islamic teaching and it's saying, nope, wrong mountain, wrong climb. Islam is pointing somewhere totally different, inward. Like greatness isn't about dominating the world, it's about conquering yourself, your ego, your impulses, your pride, your intention. And man, that's a tougher fight than anything happening on a field or a stage. You think about humility, right? Like actual humility. Not that fake PR smile humility. I'm talking about the kind that reshapes you from the inside out, the kind that makes you understand your place in the universe. Islam puts humility so high on the hierarchy of greatness that it almost feels foreign in our modern mindset. Because in the world today, humility is seen as weakness. You're told to brag, to push, to scream your achievements into everyone's face. But Islam? Islam is like, relax. Your worth isn't in the noise, your worth is in your heart. And that's wild. That's such a different kind of metric that you can't even compare the two. Success today is like a loudspeaker. Islamic greatness is like a heartbeat. And here's the coolest part. The more you read about it, the more it actually makes sense. Because humility isn't the absence of confidence. It's the absence of arrogance. It's being strong without needing to crush people. It's being gifted without needing to be worshipped. It's walking with power, but knowing that the power doesn't belong to you. That's deep. That's not Instagram deep. That's real, ancient, tested, human deep. And when Islam says greatness comes from humility, it's basically saying become the kind of person whose presence brings calm, not noise, whose character creates value, not chaos. And when you see someone who carries that kind of humility, you feel it. It's magnetic. And then there's righteousness. Not righteousness as in perfect, not righteousness as in holier than thou. No, righteousness as in doing the right thing even when it costs you, even when nobody claps, even when nobody posts it, even when it doesn't go viral. Righteousness as in integrity, clarity, honesty, compassion, all those things that don't trend but actually matter. Islam is basically saying if you want to know a person's greatness, don't look at their success. Look at their sincerity. Look at how they treat people who can't offer them anything. Look at how they behave when they're angry or tired or alone. Look at how they give, how they forgive, how they restrain themselves, how they rise after falling. And when you take that idea and hold it up against the way the modern world measures greatness, it feels like you're comparing two entirely different species. One's loud, messy, temporary. The other is quiet, grounded, eternal. And maybe that's why people get struck by it when they hear it. Because deep down everyone knows fame is fragile. Success is temporary. Everything you build here eventually dissolves into dust. But character, intention, morality, integrity, those things outlive you. Those things are recorded somewhere deeper than memories or headlines. That's why the Islamic concept hits so hard. Because it's not offering you a highlight reel life, it's offering you a meaningful one. And the older you get, the more you've seen, the more that starts to make sense. It's like Islam is saying, if you want to leave something behind, fix what's inside you, not what's around you. And man, that's a pretty intense shift. It makes you rethink everything. The grind, the competition, the obsession with the world watching. Suddenly you're asking yourself, am I great because people say I am? Or am I great because I'm actually a good human being? You know what really blows my mind? The way humility in Islam is tied to this almost cosmic awareness. Like, it's not just be humble because it's nice. No, it's deeper. It's this understanding that everything you have, your success, your body, your talent, your opportunities, they're all temporary gifts. You don't own them. You're just entrusted with them for a little while. And that idea alone destroys arrogance at its roots, because how can you brag about something that isn't truly yours? How can you claim ultimate greatness when you're literally one heartbeat away from losing everything? Islam isn't trying to make you small, it's trying to show you the truth of your scale in this massive universe. And when you really sit with that, it's humbling in the best possible way. It's like standing under a sky full of stars. You feel tiny, but not in a depressing way, in a clarifying way. You realize how short life is, how brief your moment on this earth is. And yet, Islam says even in that short moment you can achieve real greatness. Not through noise, not through fame, but through righteousness. Through being someone whose existence makes the world a little less cruel, a little more honest, a little more compassionate. That's the part people don't get. They think righteousness is rigid. They think it means being perfect all the time. But righteousness in Islam isn't perfection. It's effort. It's consistency. It's choosing good even when you're tired. It's stopping yourself from snapping back when you could easily destroy someone with your words. It's giving in secret. It's helping when nobody's watching. It's fighting your ego at 3 a.m. in the darkness when the only audience is you and God. And those quiet battles, those are the ones that define real greatness. It reminds me of something we see all the time, these athletes or celebrities who have everything, money, success, admiration, but then they talk about feeling empty. They hit the highest peak this world offers, and they're like, wait, where's the fulfillment? Why doesn't this feel like victory? And that's where you realize the power of what Islam is saying. Because Islam isn't promising happiness through external greatness. It's promising fulfillment through internal transformation. It's telling you greatness isn't what you achieve, it's what you become. And man, that hits different. Because when life gets real, when you suffer, when you lose someone, when your success fades, when the applause dies, that's when you start looking for something deeper, something that doesn't collapse when your circumstances change. And that's what humility and righteousness do. They anchor you, they stabilize you, they teach you to stand firm even when everything around you is shaking. There's also this fascinating thing in Islam where humility isn't just a personal trait, it's a spiritual strategy. It's a way of breaking the ego so you can actually grow. Like, you want strength? Start by admitting your weaknesses. You want wisdom? Start by acknowledging your ignorance. You want freedom? Start by surrendering your ego. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's the most liberating thing ever. Because the ego is heavy. It keeps you chained to people's opinions, people's validation, people's praise. Humility sets you free from all that, and righteousness works the same way. It's not a performance, it's not about looking good. It's about being good, even when being good costs you, even when being good means you get misunderstood, even when being good means you don't get the credit. Islam says your worth isn't determined by people's applause, it's determined by your intention, and intention is something nobody can see but God. That means your greatness is invisible to the world but fully visible where it matters, and that's why, when someone really absorbs this idea, their whole energy changes. They're calmer, they're softer in the right places, stronger in the right ways. They stop chasing the world, they stop needing validation, they stop begging for worth, they stop trying to prove anything. Because when you understand that greatness is humility and righteousness, you realize you already have the tools. You don't need fame, you don't need billions, you don't need to be known, you just need to cultivate your character. That's it. It's such a powerful reversal of the modern mindset. And honestly, it's refreshing. It's like taking a deep breath after being underwater too long. You start to think, wow, maybe greatness isn't about being impressive. Maybe it's about being moral. Maybe it's about being the kind of person who would still be good even if the world turned its back. And here's where it gets even more interesting. When you step back and see how Islam connects humility and righteousness to accountability, not in a scary way but in a grounding way. Like, imagine being told that nothing you do is wasted. Not a gesture, not a thought, not a moment of self-control, not a silent act of kindness. All of it counts. All of it is seen. All of it is recorded. And suddenly, greatness becomes something achievable for anyone, not just the gifted or the famous. Because it's not about what you have, it's about what you choose. And that flips everything. Because the world says greatness comes from what separates you from others. Your skill, your talent, your achievements. But Islam says greatness comes from what connects you to God. It's almost like the world pushes you upward into ego, while Islam roots you downward into sincerity. One makes you louder, the other makes you deeper. One makes you focus on how big you look, the other makes you focus on how true you are. And the thing is, when you actually look at people who reached insane levels of worldly success, you start seeing cracks. You see anxiety, burnout, loneliness, pressure, fear of losing it all. It's like they climbed a mountain only to realize the air up there is thin and cold. That's why humility is so powerful in Islamic teaching. It brings you back down to ground level, where your soul can breathe again, where life feels real again, where you're not performing anymore. You're just human. And I think that's what resonates with people, especially those who've tasted success, this idea that humility isn't about lowering yourself. It's about returning to yourself. Because when you strip away fame, wealth, status, titles, you're left with your character. That's it. That's you. And Islam is laser focused on that core version, the raw version, the honest version, the version that doesn't hide behind achievements. Righteousness is the same way. You realize righteousness isn't a costume. You can't fake it. You can fake personality, you can fake charisma, you can fake confidence, but you can't fake integrity. You can't fake kindness. You can't fake purity of intention. Those are things that show up when life squeezes you, when you're tested, when you're under pressure. And Islam constantly reminds you that the tests, the hardships, the struggles, the tough moments, they're not punishments, they're x-rays. They reveal who you really are. And man, when someone starts living by that mindset, something changes in their eyes. There's a calmness, a clarity, a steadiness. It's like they're no longer chasing the world. They're understanding it. They're not trying to dominate people. They're trying to elevate themselves spiritually. They're not obsessed with being remembered. They're obsessed with being accountable. And that shift makes them powerful in a completely different dimension. Not loud power, not flashy power, but deep, rooted, quietly unshakable power. You start noticing how the most righteous people aren't stiff or self-righteous. They're actually warm. They're grounded. They're patient. They listen more. They judge less. They forgive easily. They walk gently. That kind of behavior, that's real greatness. Not the greatness that gets paraded in front of cameras. The greatness that gets etched into the unseen. That's another fascinating part, the unseen. The idea that your greatest moments might be moments nobody ever knows about, that the real victories are the ones fought inside your heart. The world claps for the things it can see, but Islam says the things it can't see might be your actual legacy. And that's wild to think about, because we live in a time where everything is broadcasted, everything is posted, everything is curated, and here comes this ancient message saying, your most valuable moments might be the ones only God knows. And it makes you wonder, how many people out there are living small lives in the eyes of the world, but massive lives in the eyes of God? How many people walk unnoticed, but they're giants spiritually? How many quiet, humble, righteous people will stand above the so-called greats when the real measure of greatness finally shows up? It flips everything. It makes you rethink your whole existence. Like, maybe greatness isn't a spotlight. Maybe it's a mirror. Maybe greatness isn't applause. Maybe it's discipline. Maybe greatness isn't being admired. Maybe it's being accepted by the one who created you. When you let that sink in, it changes the whole game. And the more you sit with this idea, the more you realize how backwards the world has become. We're living in a time where people chase fame like it's salvation. Like being known is the same thing as being valuable. But Islam comes in and just slices right through that illusion. It keeps reminding you that the world spotlight is cheap, temporary, unreliable. One day you're trending, the next day you're forgotten. One mistake and the world drops you. One scandal and they rewrite your whole history. That's the danger of building your worth on something that fragile. But humility, righteousness, those are things nobody can take away from you. They're not dependent on public opinion. They don't fluctuate with popularity. They don't dissolve when you walk away from the field, the stage, the mic, the fame. They're yours. They grow with you. They protect you. They follow you into the grave. And that's why Islam says that's where real greatness is. Not in the echo of applause, but in the weight of your character. And the wild part is, when someone actually lives that way, their life becomes more peaceful. It's almost like the universe stops fighting them. They don't wake up every day feeling like they're sprinting to prove something. They don't need to flaunt anything. They don't need to compete with everyone. They don't need to curate their identity for strangers. They just exist, honestly, humbly, purposefully. And that honesty creates this deep tranquility that no amount of fame can give. Righteousness does the same thing. It cleans your heart. You start feeling lighter. You don't carry guilt, ego, resentment, envy. Those things poison you slowly. But righteousness empties your chest of all that static, all that noise. You treat people better, you speak with more care, you think twice before hurting someone, you give more than you take, and suddenly your presence becomes healing instead of harmful. You become someone who makes spaces calmer just by entering them. And that's the kind of greatness Islam is talking about. The greatness that isn't loud, but undeniable. The greatness that doesn't need a stage because it's written into your actions. The greatness that doesn't need a crowd because it's witnessed by God. It's the greatness that makes you feel small in the best possible way, small enough to let go of arrogance, but strong enough to rise in integrity. It makes you look at life differently. You start measuring your days not by what you achieved, but by who you became. You start caring more about how you treated people than how many people recognized you. You start thinking more about what you're taking with you after death than what you're accumulating before it. And when that mindset settles in you, everything shifts. You stop chasing illusions. You stop running after shadows. You start becoming someone whose greatness is real, not rented. And honestly, that's the kind of greatness everyone is searching for, whether they admit it or not. People want to feel complete. They want to feel grounded. They want to feel purposeful. Fame doesn't give them that. Success doesn't give them that. But humility and righteousness, those reshape your entire soul. They give you a sense of direction that the world can't imitate. They give you an identity that hardship can't break. They give you dignity that no one can strip away. That's why when Islam says real greatness isn't fame or success, it hits so hard. Because deep down, every human knows it's true. You can pretend it's about wealth or followers or achievements, but at the end of the day, when you're alone with yourself, you know the truth. You know greatness is moral. You know greatness is spiritual. You know greatness is character. And Islam doesn't just teach that. It demands it. It trains you in it. It molds you into it. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe the world measures greatness by how high you rise, but Islam measures it by how deeply you stand, how honestly you live, how humbly you walk, how righteously you act. Maybe greatness wasn't supposed to be loud at all. Maybe it was supposed to be pure. That's the kind of greatness that doesn't die when you do. That's the kind of greatness that actually matters.